Hey guys, Tavis Piattoly, sports dietitian for the Taylor Hooten Foundation. Today we're talking about omega-3 testing, right? And you might think, well, what do you mean omega-3 testing? So we all know what omega-3 or fish oil is because a lot of people take fish oil. We take fish oil for a variety of reasons, and fish oil has a lot of important functions, or omega-3 is an essential fatty acid that we need to get from the diet that has a lot of important functions when it comes to reducing our risk for cardiovascular disease, brain health, reducing inflammation, so much more. We can go on and on. Longevity. So there's a lot of topics. But a lot of people didn't realize or don't realize you can actually test your blood for omega-3 status. And that little marker that most people are not testing, or most physicians are not even aware of, can really tell you a little bit or a lot about your potential risk for cardiovascular disease, as well as markers of inflammation. So this test, the company called Omega Quant, Dr. Bill Harris, he is a PhD, 40 years of research. He is the co-inventor of the omega-3 index test with Dr. Von Schacke. In 2009, discovered a way to how to test the blood for omega-3. And in 2009, opened a company called Omega Quant to actually help individuals understand how to test their body. What I like about what they do, number one, is they test the red blood cell. So if you went to a lab, a local lab, and did a blood draw, what that's going to look at is your 24 to 48 hour status of your omega-3 status, kind of like a blood sugar. Whereas if you had carbohydrate the night before, your blood sugar's up. If you had fish oil or salmon or anything rich in omega-3, your levels could be falsely elevated. Where with Omega Quant in their test, they look at your blood omega-3 status in your blood for over 4 months. So what is the omega-3 test telling you? Well, it's a breakdown of your EPA and DHA. EPA and DHA, and it's hard for me to pronounce those. These are two essential fatty acids in the blood that we get from omega-3 rich sources. So if you like fish, like halibut, tuna, mackerel, salmon, anchovy, sardines, those are all very rich in EPA and DHA. If you're eating those 3 to 4 or 5 days a week, you should have some pretty good levels of omega-3 in your blood. If not, then we need a supplement. So this test is pretty critical because the average individual in the entire world has a level somewhere between 4 and 5%. That's considered deficient. So 90% of the entire globe has an omega-3 deficiency. Why is that? We're just not eating enough in the food supply. We're not eating the right sources. But in particular, we're not taking enough in supplementation, and we're also not using the right form of supplementation. Ideal ranges are 8 to 12% when we look at countries and populations that are in that range. That's Japan, that's Korea, that's Okinawa, that's countries like Norway, Papua New Guinea, certain other countries. But the US and Canada typically have an average range of about 4 to 5%. Vegans are somewhere in the 2% range, and the US military is somewhere in the 2 to 3% range. Vegans primarily because there's only one source that can drive up levels in the blood, and that's algae. So if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you eat no source of fish, things like flaxseed, things like chia seed, hemp seed are not going to elevate your omega-3 status in your blood, primarily because they don't convert to EPA and DHA. So I'm going back to EPA and DHA. These are key essential fatty acids that we need to get. So this little simple finger stick test can be done at home. There's a link in the video below where you can obtain a copy of that test if you'd like to test yourself. Just a quick little finger stick. You put that little spot of blood to fill that circle on the card. You mail it back to the lab, and then within 4 to 5 business days, your results are going to show up, and that'll let you know. What does that mean? Dr. Bill Harris's study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2008 showed levels below 4% had an odds ratio and relative risk of 1, which is quite high. In those that were above 8%, that relative risk and odds ratio for coronary heart disease, sudden cardiac death, as well as heart attack dropped to 0.2. So it went from 1 to 0.2. That's a massive risk reduction. They saw anywhere from a 35 to 40% potential risk reduction in coronary heart disease, sudden cardiac death, and myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, for those that were 7 to 8% or higher. So how can we get to that 8 to 10% range? That's really what I would recommend, is focusing and trying to get to about 8 to 10%. There's a couple of things. If you don't like supplementation, then you need to get this from food. Wild caught, things like salmon, halibut, mackerel are going to be really high. Try to consume 3 to 5 ounces of those, probably 4 to 5 days a week. So on a regular basis, consume that. Number 2 is supplementation, right? And your store-bought omega-3 is not going to be ideal to raise your levels. That comes in ethyl ester form. You typically want, when you have levels between 3 and 5%, you're going to have to take about 2,000 milligrams per day of combined EPA and DHA. So look on the back of your fish oil. If it does not say triglyceride base, that's the form you really want your product to be in, then make sure you get another product. You can reach out to us, or you can reach out to me at tavis.piattoly@taylorhooton. That's HOOTON.org. I'm happy to provide you with a variety of brands out there that do a good job. A few brands that I like, Parasol Nutrition, Nordic Naturals. They do a really good job when it comes to Momentous. They have triglyceride-based fish oil. So 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA. So on the back of your bottle, if it says 2 capsules and it has 180 EPA and 220 DHA or vice versa, that means you're only getting 400 milligrams of omega-3. And that's not going to be enough. And that's what most people are doing. They're going to a pharmacy, they're going to a big box store to buy their omega-3, and they're buying it in bulk. And it's usually cheap and it's not very effective. So this is a very important test. It can tell you a lot about your risk for inflammation. This is just the basic test. OmegaQuant has 2 additional tests, one called the Plus and one called the Complete. The Plus is probably my favorite, mainly for the individual, because what it does, it also shows you your 6-to-3 ratio, which is omega-6 to omega-3. Our diet is typically very saturated with omega-6, but that can be easily reversed with supplementation. And that's the one thing, is there's so much focus about how bad omega-6 is, but in reality, the biggest problem is omega-3 deficiency. So get this test. Let's see where you are. If you have questions, reach out. We'll help you kind of understand how to supplement. But be sure with supplementation, you're using a triglyceride-based fish oil. A krill oil is also very effective, but you just have to take a lot of capsules to get enough. And if you're a vegan or vegetarian, then an algae oil is your only way to drive your levels up. So I hope this video was beneficial. Be sure to visit us at www.taylorhooton.org. Have a great day.